Hey everyone, welcome to Decision Desk HQ's Let Me Finish, our show that comes at you Tuesdays and Fridays. I have our esteemed panel with me. I have Catherine Swartz from a reporter at Notice, and I have Michael Pruser here, who is an analyst at Decision Desk HQ, and I'm Liberty Vittert, professor of data science at Washington University in St. Louis. Remember, we will be here with you on election night until the votes are all counted. So who knows how long that will last, but we're also here every week with you, twice a week, to keep you updated. So now on to what is interesting in the polls this week. We haven't seen much of a change in the swing states, and the after debate polling really isn't there yet. But what we do have is an ABC Ipsos poll that shows us whether there was any change for voters before and after the debate. So first up, we have registered voters, so people who are registered to vote. Before the debate, Harris was at 50, Trump was at 46, and after the debate, Harris was at 51 and Trump was at 47. Really no change among registered voters there. Second, we have likely voters, so not necessarily our registered voters, but our likely voters. Again, before the debate, Harris at 52, Trump at 56. Exact same numbers after the debate. Harris at 52 and Trump at 46. So whether you think the cat and dog comments of Trump eating things mattered, they didn't. And whether you think her having Bluetooth potentially earphones with her earrings mattered, it didn't. Voters did not care based upon the debate. Secondly, we have a really interesting poll out on election issues. So what do voters think? Who do they think does a better job? We have immigration, economy, and inflation. Trump is almost plus 10 over Harris on all three of those issues that are always really important at the voter box and could be what sways people to Trump. But on three other major election issues, race relations, abortion, and healthcare, Harris really edges out Trump at plus 16, plus 14, and plus 9 over Trump on those three very important, more social issues. So we really see the strengths and weaknesses of both of our candidates. And I think that brings us, guys, to really, what does polling mean and how good is it? You know, if you look back to national polls, reminding us of 2016 when everyone said, oh, the pollsters got it so wrong, they didn't actually get it that wrong. They got it wrong by about 4 points. They overestimated Hillary Clinton by about 4 points, which in the end, those 4 points mattered because it switched it over to Trump because the race was so close. Again, though, in 2020, everyone goes, oh, the pollsters got it so right. Not really. They had Biden at plus 10. He actually only won by about 5. So again, they were off by about 5. Now, this time it was in the right direction. They still had Biden winning. It didn't switch it for Trump. But the pollsters have been off by, let's say, 4 to 5 points each time, leaning Democrat. If they're in the same place again for 2024, if they're off by plus 4, plus 5 in terms of Harris winning, that all of a sudden switches the election and Trump is going to be our president again. So unless the pollsters have really changed their methods and their ways, I think we could potentially be seeing this same situation as in 2016 and in 2020. Catherine, are you with me, or what do you think? Michael, I'm not going to put you in that position with DDHQ analyst.
Not yet, anyway. I understand.
Well, what I come back to again and again with this election and what was true in 2016 and 2020, looking at those results, is that, yes, looking at national results of a Harris-Trump matchup is important. That determines what people are thinking and feeling. This race comes down to a handful of states and a handful of areas within those states of the small amount of still undecided voters we see. So yes, they're looking at those top line numbers. They're looking at what's going on at the national level, but it really hammers down to just these few areas. And like you mentioned earlier, these are people who care about the economy, they care about immigration, and they feel that they know about Trump and about Trump's personality that has been on display for years now, but they feel that they still don't fully know about Harris, about who she is and about where she stands on those specific issues. So my warning is always just, yes, the top line is important, but it is going to come down to a small handful of voters in a small number of states.
Yeah, look, in 2016 and 2020, popular vote went Democrat both times, but the actual vote that mattered, we were within tens of thousands of votes in 3 states. That was true both years. It's probably going to be true again in 2024. So when you're talking about missing by 5, that's not a possible Harris victory this time. If she loses the popular vote, she's going to lose. I can say that confidently. So right now she's up 3.5 on average, and she's expanding that lead. That's important. She needs to. I think that she's probably not very comfortable right now. Trump isn't very comfortable right now. And you see that they're only spending their time in a handful of states because those are the states that matter. So these national polls, they're important, as Catherine said, but really the vote in California, the vote in New York, the vote in Illinois, the vote in Florida, that's much more important on the local level and the state level. But for national politics, it's really not that valuable for us right now. So I hope that over the next couple of weeks, we start to see some movement in the state polls, because if we go into this election where Michigan is ±1 and Pennsylvania is ±1, we're really, that's the value of flipping a coin. And it's really not going to help us very much in determining, who's going to come out on top November 5th.
I saw a focus group and there was this really, really smart kid, but he was from New York and he was talking about Trump Harris. And I was like, I don't think anybody cares what you think at this point. Your vote is not going to count in that matter.
I mean, depending on his congressional district, that will really matter in New York, but not presidentially.
Very true.
New York and California are critical for congressional, who holds the House. And it's interesting that neither candidate is going to spend any, well, I shouldn't say that. Trump is actually going to Long Island and he's going to have a rally there to try and boost a couple of his congressional candidates. It would be nice to see Harris, with her unlimited funds, kind of take that approach, or at least find a way to get that money to them. But New York and California, national politics, not a thing.
Yeah, I will point out Harris has infused $10 million recently into the DCCC for House races. But yeah, not as much as the ground game time, which I think people are okay with. They want to see her in those swing states. But just pointing out, that's a record number of funding that she put towards those races.
Yeah.
So Catherine, in terms of what Michael's saying about how the polls do move and how Harris might make some headway, are there voters who haven't decided yet? Is there a hidden Trump or a hidden Harris vote somewhere?
Well, looking at the swing states, particularly the blue wall where I focus on, it's a low number of undecided voters there, but you have seen Harris and the campaign with her messaging reaching out to independent voters, moderate Republicans who are anti-Trump, even if they did vote for Trump in 2020. And her messaging is clear on that. Thinking back to the debate last week, she's emphasizing, I'm a gun owner. She's talking about January 6th, that issue, and she's talking about foreign policy, talking about her stance on Ukraine, whereas Trump was non-committal when it came to Ukraine and talking about that conflict. So in terms of what she is focusing on with her issues, successfully, it's looking at Jan 6, it's looking at foreign policy, kind of doing that outreach to moderate voters, whereas Trump, consistently, his message has been more focused on mobilizing his base.
Yeah, I think her strongest message, which was Biden's strongest message in 2020, is that she's not Trump. I think that's really how she needs to pitch herself to moderate voters, because we've seen that the Trump vote over the last few years has really degraded in the suburbs. White suburban women do not like Donald Trump, and it's been that way now, and it's getting worse year after year. So if she can just stand up, be relatively moderate on certain issues and say, listen, do you want competence in the White House or do you want this? That's a very strong message. I think where she loses it sometimes is when she's trying to expand on what policy she's actually trying to go after. She's not the best orator in that sense. And so, she's avoided doing debates for the most part. She's avoided doing interviews for the most part. And I think that's probably a winning strategy for her, because she can present herself as the moderate and not kind of lock down that persona that she doesn't really have command of for policy issues. Liberty, do you think that that's a good idea? Should she be out there more often? Shouldn't she be out there at all? We get too much of Trump. I think people think that Trump should speak less, and that kind of hurts him to go out and do more. Is it the same for Harris? Should she be speaking less?
It's so funny you say that. I feel like what's it called? A broken record or something. I keep saying this. She was the furthest left senator. I mean, of all the senators, she was the furthest left with her record. And we keep forgetting that because she's been so rebranded as this moderate. And I think part of the reason she's been able to keep that brand as a moderate is and become a moderate in most people's eyes, and maybe in the white suburban women's eyes, is that she hasn't done interviews. We haven't gotten to the depth of who she is, as you said, Catherine. So I think really she's doing the best strategy for her, maybe not for the American public, but certainly the best strategy for her to win. I mean, it's working. She has a lead. Her lead is growing. And so I would stay far away from the cameras if I were her. I think the news media will be really upset if Trump stays away from the camera because it's one of the most fun parts of the day to see what he says. But I don't know. What do you think, Catherine?
Well, we've seen Harris be pretty strategic about what interviews she's doing. So we've seen this new focus, particularly in the last couple of weeks, on local media in these swing states, in the media markets that she needs to be appearing on. So just last week when she was in Johnstown, Pennsylvania, that's a small area in central Pennsylvania, a Republican area. She's doing an interview there with the local affiliate station that aired that night while she was doing a rally across the state in another blue collar working class area. So even if she's not giving these national interviews, and there's been criticism of her not giving those national interviews. I mean, I'm a journalist. I want to see candidates giving interviews, of course, but the campaign is taking a strategic approach here. It's not that they're not doing any interviews. It's just that their interviews are targeted towards the voters that they need to have.
Well, I think that wraps up our quick fire Decision Desk HQ Let Me Finish show, coming at you twice a week. I have Catherine Swartz, a reporter for Notice, and Michael Pruser, an analyst at Decision Desk HQ, and I'm Liberty Vittert, professor of the practice of data science at Washington University in St. Louis. Don't forget, we are here twice a week updating you on the latest and most interesting polls. And of course, we will be here with you on election night with some of the smartest minds in elections, polling, and politics until the votes are final and counted. We will be with you the entire time for the best analysis right here. Thank you all so much for joining us.